Raise a glass, let the worries slip away. Liquid lunch, we're living for today. There's Troy laughing with his gin and a grin, telling stories about where he's been. Boomer's got whiskey, he's loosening his tie, chasing dreams under a midday sky. The bartender knows us, he's mixing with flair. Every sip's a moment we're happy to share. Liquid lunch, pour it smooth, let it flow. Friends round the table where the good times grow. Raise a glass, let the worries slip away. Liquid lunch, we're living for today. The clock don't matter, we're lost in the vibe. Jazz in the air, feel the soul come alive. From martinis to bourbon, we're riding the wave. Stealing this hour, it's the freedom we crave. The sun's still shining, but we're in our zone. This bar's our shelter, our temporary home. One more round before the world calls us back. Savor the moment, keep the blues in the rack. We'll laugh and we'll toast till the afternoon fades. Memories made in these liquid escapades. Liquid lunch, pour it smooth, let it flow. Friends round the table where the good times grow. Raise a glass, let the worries slip away. Liquid lunch, we're living for today. So here's to the day, like the drinks and the fun. Our liquid lunch, till the next one comes. With a wink and a smile, we'll be back real soon. Chasing that jazz under the high noon.
Va salute and welcome to another Liquid Lunch. This one is a Thoughtful Tuesday. On Tuesdays, I like to focus on the chat and what your thoughts are. You can consider it and ask me anything, or just let me know what's on your mind. What would you like to talk about? What would you like to ask me about? What topics have I not covered you want covered, or have I covered and you want covered more? And yeah, I'm treating myself medicinally today. A little bit of a sore throat starting, and trying to nip it in the bud as much as possible. Let's see what you guys are all saying to start out with. Starting with Longest Parsec. Welcome, welcome. Bring me a bottle every 11 minutes until I pass out. Then bring one every 7 minutes. Restyle of the back to school line. There you go. Good. I like the way you think. Me and my monkey. I'll drink to that, Parsec. Yeah, exactly. We're all in unison on that one. That's Liquid Lunch spirit. Hello, Liquid Lunchers. Hope you're all having a delightful day. Have a great show, Troy. Thank you so much, Big Al. Definitely appreciate that. Yes, Tired Midnight Blogger says it's lunchtime. Yes, it is. Thank you so much. Glad you're here. And of course, the love of my life pops in here to do all the cheerleading, saying like, share, subscribe, become a member, leave a comment, gift a membership if you're feeling generous. We are trying to reach 100 members by the end of the year and 2,000 subscribers. And that's just a minimum goal to keep me going so that I can continue to do what we do around here. If you want to know how close we are to 100 members, check the description below. You'll see the list of members as they exist right now. Membership only costs about $2 if you're not already a member, and it really is invaluable to keeping the show going. But in addition to that, there are a number of benefits, including the Monday members only stream, Members Night at the Movies, where last night we watched a Christmas adjacent film, a horror film by Oliver Stone starring Michael Caine called The Hand. I think it was an Addams Family origin story for Thing, but that's for you to decide. Mark Melnikoff says, Mech, oh, it's lunchtime. It's Thoughtful Tuesday. Don't think, act. Like, subscribe, become a member. Act, and you shall have dinner. Think, and you will be dinner. Exactly. Great Klingon proverb there. JoesAtmosfere says, lurking while he's working. Like and share, people. Yes, just like he did. He shared out the stream on the social medias, and of course, I always appreciate that. Yep. Longest Parsec says, let's go! And Connie Cleary joins us, the bird woman of YouTube, Fluff Chick Production. Welcome. Suzanne, good to see you. Thank you so much for being here. Geek Flag with Nate Knows, my man, says, like, share, subscribe, become a member. And if you were going to give a super chat of $5 or more, why not make that a gifted membership instead? Super appreciate that, my friend. Super appreciate that. He says, Jonathon Conroy says, hey, all, smash the like button and enjoy the show. Yes, please do that. And he says, good afternoon. Good afternoon to you as well, Jonathan. Good to see you. Let's see. Booger. Good to see you, my friend. Reminds me of my idea for a book of Klingon proverbs. I never got the concept off the ground. Fair enough. Fair enough. I used to maintain, I still have access to it, a club-related page related to our ship and our club. And on the linguistics page, there was a list of all the proverbs and the Klingon translation. And there was also a list of phrases, common phrases to memorize, to kind of learn language. Wallace Lang, welcome. Good to see you. Hope you're doing well this fine Tuesday. And that's where we get to. How is everyone doing on this fine Tuesday? What's on your minds today? What have you been thinking about? Are you completely over the whole Netflix, Warner Brothers, Paramount thing? Should we talk about that or move on? There has been a little bit more news, but it's nothing that should be surprising if you've been paying attention to me. I told you what was going to happen. My club page is long gone. I don't even see it in the Wayback Machine. Yeah, I didn't even think about the Wayback Machine. Good point. I'll have to go and see if my stuff is still accessible there. I fought so hard for so long with the Klingon domain name. I had purchased Klingon Armada International. I think it was both .org and .net, and the IKV Hashtom, which was our ship. Maintained those for years, but after Evelyn Hampton's passing this year, I was talking with Mark, and we were like, there's no one left. There's no one left that's not here in the Chicagoland area. Everyone else is out doing their own thing, not actively going to conventions, not actively recruiting, not posting anything. I said, I think it's time to disband. And if people want to, continue to be a part of a larger club, everyone should rally around CAG. It's the biggest. And even it's kind of dying. You were Kai. I remember that name among the warrior clubs or the various clubs. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Mark and I were on the staff, and as was Evelyn was the chief of staff. Everyone else either died or retired or just, wasn't doing anything. Wallace has a cold, so I have to run over to the drugstore and buy Cold Ease and Robitussin this afternoon. So Netter's probably going to mention about her honey ginger lemon remedy, which is good. I also highly recommend ginger beer, a good ginger beer, not ginger ale, ginger beer. And it's a little harder to find. You might actually have to look in the mixers section in the liquors, either the liquor store or the liquor section, where they have the mixers. They might have some in the craft sodas, in the soda section, but definitely get yourself a ginger beer. That definitely will help with congestion. Also, I mean, talk to your doctor and make your own decisions. Don't base it on me. Don't take medical advice from a guy on the internet. But alcohol is a great decongestant, so consider that. And I'm not talking getting drunk. I'm just talking a little bit for medicinal purposes. I would personally do that before I start taking anything with codeine in it. CAG used to be somewhat of a joke in my area. I have since met some nice folk. So there has been we've talked about this a lot. We have very much rehabbed CAG. It has become a lot less offensive. We have definitely pushed the offensive members out, but in so doing, it's also become very stagnant. So it's a great social club for Klingons, which is what it always should have been in the first place. But they are by no means demonstrating the warrior spirit in trying to hold the club together and advance it. Ginger beer with vodka, lime, and a sprig of mint. Actually, not a bad idea. That would actually be an excellent, not cure for a cold, but definitely treatment. It would make you feel better. All of those things. The mint will help open up the sinus passages. The vodka will help decongest. The lime and the beer will help the throat and any phlegm and coughing and sore throat that you're getting. Me and my monkey, thank you so much. You gifted a membership too. Pit Snipe Husker. I thank you so much for that. I really do appreciate that. That gets us that much closer to our goal. I am hoping for a Christmas miracle this year, but I'll still be happy if I could just see that 100 members by New Year's Eve. That's what I'm thinking. A good ginger beer is amazing. Yes, and if you are like me, when I first heard about it, you went ginger beer. Man, I know about ginger ale. What's ginger beer? Ginger beer is a soda that's got a much sharper ginger flavor to it. It actually burns a little bit in a good way. No alcohol. There's no alcohol other than, some people, especially diabetics, have problems with sugar and alcohol in their system and whatnot, and the two can have similar effects on them, but no alcohol in the sense of alcohol by volume. Mark says, as a CAG command staff member, that's true. He's in charge of the entire sector in the Midwest here. I can say it will take time to rebuild to what things were before that thing happened in 2020. 2020 killed conventions. It did. It took all the momentum out of conventions, going physically, which was the lifeblood of any club. Also, the franchise of Star Trek is kind of dying. It really is. You decide what the reason for that is, or reasons, plural. But it really is. And there's really no growing a fan club without the franchise that you're a fan of, right? If that's not growing, the club's not going to grow. But also, I do think that CAG needs a much better online presence, and the website that they use it's ridiculous in this modern age that we're using the equivalent of CompuServe type servers for CAG now, and don't even get me started. Don't even get me started. And yes, thank you again, me and my monkey. I super appreciate that. But yeah, I mean, and look, it's unfortunate too, because this is a great time of the year to be celebrating with other Klingons. Things like Chitlop at the end of October, and in the next week or so, Ramnete, the Feast of the Long Night. If you play Star Trek Online, the winter event just started today, so you can go to Q's Winter Wonderland and you can do some Klingon ice fishing, which is a great tradition. I have a video up of that here on the channel talking about the Klingon holiday traditions. I may have to share those out again sometime soon, but I see a lot of similarities between the Klingon Feast of the Long Night and the fish that they fish and eels that they accumulate and serve and share, being very much like the Feast of the Seven Fishes for Italians on Christmas Eve. What is the long night? Of course, every planet that has a tilted axis, that has seasonality, winter and summer, is going to have a day that is the longest day and the longest night at opposite ends of the year. And on Earth, we call that the winter solstice, the longest night of the year. And Klingons have the same thing. But longest parsec, are you an ice fisher? Is that what you're saying? The Klingons use a gauntlet that's got these huge spikes on it to punch their way through the ice, and then they reach in and grab the fish out. And then they throw it into a big sled in the middle of the ice. Their goal, their hope, is to attract a giant Koskari, a giant water serpent or eel. Out in the oceans, they can be the size of a whale, but in the rivers and lakes, they can get big, but not that big. But them's good eating for the winter time. This video that I have up talks about why the concept of coming together for feast days at the longest night, ritualistic lights and candles, whether it's the Jewish menorah or the Advent candle, and of course the torch of Bo, the Klingons. Nighttime is a dangerous time because that's when predators come out. So even as a predator, you have to protect yourself against other predators. And in the wintertime, as the nights get longer, you have less crops, you have less vegetation, and as a result, the herds start getting smaller. So the competition for food gets higher. And that's why, as a society, we've learned to preserve foods, prepare. This is part of the harvest concept, bringing the harvest in, packing it away, storing it in various methods for the winter, and then sharing it throughout the winter, starting with a harvest feast to, eat up the foods that aren't going to be preserved, right? Fatten yourself up a little bit so you got a few layers to get you through the winter. And then on that longest day of the year, or longest night of the year, when it's, when you're right in the middle of it, come together and share what you've got again, to make sure that you're halfway through and you're halfway to spring, right? Troy, I tell you what's on my mind, and I got me hot under the collar. Google's Gemini AI. I have been using it for a while and singing its praises, but last month they started a $20 for video. So is that you were getting a free service and they're now charging you for it? Is that what it is? Because, yeah, I've seen that happen with a lot of these online services. Unless you serve on Rura Penthe, the days go on and on. Transports of prisoners arrive daily for the dilithium mines. Yep. That's bad enough, but to try and force people to sign up for the page tier, they have been systematically degrading the free tier, making it almost unusable. Yeah. I'm about to give him a big FU because now the paid tier is simply what was available free, not better, nothing more. Yeah. And I think that's my biggest problem. You're going to start charging me for something that even for free, I was never really 100% satisfied with. There's a lot to be desired from a lot of these online services. But I am running into the same thing with a lot of the AI services that I use as well. As if people stop using the AI, it's not going to learn to become useless. So, F you, Google. Yeah, I agree. I have Star Trek, the role-playing game that was designed and published by FASA in the 1980s and the 1990s. I don't have many books from FASA. I have some, including the 2 Next Generation books that they were able to get out before they lost the license. The Big Officer's Manual and the smaller Season 1 book. And I could already see problems with it. One of the big problems with the FASA role-playing game was it started at a time when there wasn't a great deal of Star Trek canon, and so they oftentimes made things up. And that's where you got the human fusion Klingons and the Romulan Klingon fusions and stuff like that, which did inspire real canon many decades later, but basically wasn't canon. Some of the races, some of the timelines, some of the technology and wars that they had were completely non-canon. But I understand why they did that. They did that because there was so little canon to draw from. They were trying to fill out the lore. That's not necessary after the Next Generation, but they were already starting to do it with the Next Generation. They started by creating lore about Noonien Soong that was almost immediately, within 2 seasons, decanonized by what happened in the show. So it was like, guys, you're going about this all wrong. Now, the problem was that then Paramount didn't license another role-playing game for a number of years. And I feel that was a real waste. It was a decade or more before we got a new role-playing game. And right now, Modifius is doing a pretty good role-playing game. I've got all of those books, all of the Klingon books. In fact, they did something very smart. They had put out all their main source books, the Player's Guide, the Game Master Guide, and whatnot, from a Federation perspective. But then, as they were getting ready for their second edition, they put it out. You could get the Federation book, but you could also get the Klingon campaign book, which was the Klingon book for players and for game masters. So that was pretty sweet. All new programs like that are based on a crack-like sales model. Yeah, a little bit of free, then money for your addiction. Yeah. Well, and it's even worse for content creators, because if you start using it, to put together, voiceovers, promos, bumpers, things like that, and you start doing it for free, it becomes an integrated part of your show. Well, now you got to start paying for it on a monthly basis. Great. I don't really make that much as a content creator. Thus, the drive to get to 100 members. And even that's bare minimum, just for me to be able to have the funds to pay the different platforms for the tools that I need to do this show. It costs way more than people might think and realize. There's no such thing as a free lunch. You got to pay for the AI madness somehow. Dollars or your data, privacy, or your data and privacy. No to AI assistance. Look, you can hashtag that all you want. I'm sorry, it's here. It's too late. And again, speaking AI assistant is something else entirely. Really, all that is I have absolutely become dissatisfied with the Echo Dot. The thing can't understand me. I can't understand it half the time. It answers questions I'm not asking. And this is the free service, and then it starts advertising an updated service. I'm like, if I'm dissatisfied with free, what makes you think I'm going to pay for it? Now jump over to Grok, and its assistant, grok.com, again, free. That chatbot passes the Turing test. It understands what I'm asking for and allows you the follow-up. If it didn't, you go, no, that's not what I meant. And then it rejiggers, having remembered what it said before and knowing that's not what you were talking about. That's the most basic of AI. And the Amazon thing can't even handle that. That Gemini AI crap showed up mysteriously on my phone, trying to figure out how to get rid of it. I gotta check and see if... I don't think that's on my phone. But yes, I had heard that some people had been saying that. Let me take a look. I don't normally play around with my phone at all, so I don't even know what's on it. Galaxy, Guardian. I don't see anything related to Gemini on here. Well, I almost never use my phone. There are a couple of apps that I have downloaded, kind of for emergencies. In other words, when I'm away from my PC. But I don't think I ever use them. And every time I go to make a phone call, the thing comes up. There are 25 apps that you never use. Can we remove them to make space? And I look at them and I go, nah, I might use them someday. Exactly. The AI wasn't perfect. You had to do hundreds of generations to get things right. And now I'm going to have to pay you $20 a month for that. Yeah. And then they put a limit to how many attempts you could do. Now, I'm going to tell you this, Nate, and I'm going to tell you in love, because this is advice that might help you as you're using these prompts. You got to learn how to say things in prompts. It's even worse than when you're trying to direct message somebody or leave a chat or whatever. If you voice to text or if you typo and I got to think, what does he mean? There's a word missing here, or use the wrong word or something, and I have to go through the process. Computers don't do that. So you need to make sure your prompt is grammatically correct. You use the right words. You were very clear in what you were trying to get across. Because there's too many times that I've made a mistake and it'll, come up with something. And I'm like, why did it do that? And then I look back at my prompt and I'm like, oh, okay. But yeah, that's crucial. And that's even more crucial when it's credits that are being used up every time you do a prompt. And that you can actually this is the irony, you can use AI to help you write prompts. Honestly, grok.com has helped me figure out prompts to use in other AIs, and the results were brilliant, absolutely brilliant. But Grok is the best I have found for just simply talking to it and it understanding what you're trying to say. Reading the FASA supplements were a big part of my character development for LARPing, for all of us back then, for all of us. And there was, and that was one of the first big divisions in fandom as Next Gen came out and real lore was usurping that. People were unable to give up the fanon that they had created based on FASA. It's taken a long time, and now I have seen that the people that still use the honorifics that FASA came up with for the Klingons and all that, most of them have left fandom or died off because they're that old, and all the new kids have no idea what they're talking about because they never even saw these FASA books. Let's see here. The human fusion was essentially vindicated by the viral Klingons. The Romulan fusions were just weird. I wouldn't say vindicated. I would say that canon was inspired by that fanon, because that whole idea of why the human fusion Klingons existed was stupid. Think about it. Let's not let the humans know that we look so different from them. We will make genetic fusions of humans and Klingons so we look more human, for infiltration reasons. Although we'll still wear Klingon uniforms and still engage them in Klingon ships, but somehow being human fusion is going to confuse them, and help with infiltration. Now, that infiltration thing actually was canon. We saw it in The Trouble with Tribbles, where Arnie Darvin was a Klingon not genetically altered, cosmetically altered, surgically altered to appear human. And that's one of the points I'll give Star Trek Discovery. They tried to address that with their what was that human officer that was really an albino Klingon. I don't remember names or anything like that, but that's why I often say that I feel like the Discovery had some little bits of lore that I found compelling for the Klingons. But yeah, no, because an accident while playing around with augment genetics, becoming a virus, is very different from a planned, calculated human fusion thing for the Klingons that would encounter humans on the borders. I run a de-Googled phone. Best thing I've ever done. Plus, I turned off some things on the account side. Yeah, I don't know enough about technology on how to do that. And the weird Starship recognition manuals, I remember us having fun with the penetration cruiser in one of those books. I'll tell you, there were some crazy ideas. And some of them have become Easter eggs in canon. But yeah. The FASA was only the original series based, so I simply have been developing my own campaign books for TOS and the animated series only. Yeah, no, but there were 2 books that FASA put out for the next generation. Look it up. One was the Next Gen Officers Manual, and the other was the Season 1 source book. They exist. They weren't good. They weren't good. It was off to a bad start. But some people that are real big FASA fans still love it. Just look up Graphene OS and be set free. I don't touch Grok on any of that crap. Understood. I know I'm ranting. Sorry. No, that's perfectly fine. That's what Tuesday's all about. Let me know what you guys want to talk about, and that's what we'll talk about. I know firsthand you don't use your phone much, Troy. Yeah, exactly. You're lucky if you can catch me. Here's the thing. This is my rule with my mobile phone. You can't reach me on it if you wouldn't have been able to reach me on a landline phone. When I'm out and about, especially when I'm driving, you can't reach me. And that's the way it should be. I have it for emergencies. If my car breaks down, I can call for help. I can call a tow truck. You know, if I need to call for police and ambulance, I've got a phone because there's no guarantees of there being any kind of public phone these days, you know. But if someone's calling, it'll go to voicemail until I get home. Was Arnie Darvin genetic? I thought he was surgical. Yes, I corrected myself. He was not genetic. He was surgically altered, which is an important plot point because otherwise it wouldn't have made any sense when McCoy does a scan of him and goes, Jim, this man's a Klingon. How would he have known that if he couldn't tell on a genetic level? Now, the whole idea with whatever his name was, the albino Klingon in Star Trek Discovery, they surgically altered him, but then they changed him on a genetic level to bypass genetic scans. They also put him through a mind sifter. Mind sifter, remember that, Klingons? In order to turn him into the equivalent of a Klingon Manchurian candidate. He didn't even remember he was Klingon until certain code phrases were used to reactivate him. And it didn't work very well. But it absolutely was compelling storytelling and lore. I found that very, very interesting. This chat might be the only place where I would be understood if I said epitai and sutai. Yes, but that's what I mean. That's what I mean, because that is unfortunately defunct. That was Ford / FASA lore that it was beta canon at the time. It is now X canon. It does not fit the modern canon. And people will tilt their head and squint their eyes and say, well, maybe there are some sectors of the Klingon Empire that use this. This is the old ways. This is an old language. This is what they use for the old Ford Klingon alphabet. Fine, if that's what you want to say, it's an old dialect or whatever. the idea of old dialects makes perfect sense. Klingon hasn't been, the same language, just like English. You go far enough back, you would not understand so-called English speakers, and eventually it's no longer English. And different alphabets and so forth. But not only that, but they have explained away errors, and I'm being generous here, in the translation in scripts. And they'll say, well, that was a phraseology or a term or a tradition from old times. The language has changed since then. Okay, fine. Whatever you need to do to remember battle stripes on your honor sash? I knew people who wore them. Yeah, and all that did was evolve into different medals, and because there were all these different, and you saw the Klingon ambassador and whatnot with all these medals and ribbons and stuff, and there was no thought or meaning to them. So clubs had a great deal of freedom to come up with their own, call them battle stripes. How many conventions you've been to, how many events you've been to, special honor for this, that, and the other. So I never really saw a problem with that. It was also a way to give purpose to some of the things you see on the uniforms and stuff. Here's a random fact to mess with your heads and the rest for the rest of the day. The white part of popcorn is called endosperm. Yes, that's absolutely true. That is absolutely true. And the part that gets caught in your teeth is the exosperm. The payphones are like the Sasquatch, hard to find. Yeah, every now and again, I will see, usually not a functional phone. I will see just, one of those little kiosky things, sometimes with no actual phone in it any longer. I don't know if this is still true, but when I used to work downtown, and I would go into the state of Illinois building, where the courts are and stuff, they used to have, on several floors, there were these old, and you'll see them in movies all the time, these wooden phone booths, with the slide door, and they used to have those so that the attorneys could go use the phone to call back to the office, call their secretary or their paralegal to get some files put together for them or whatever. When they pulled all the phones out of there, they still kept all of those booths because you could still go in and make a private phone call on your cell phone. So, anyway. Would McCoy's scanner have Imperial Klingon data or only human fusion data? Was Arnie Darvin both surgical and genetic? Good question. Well, again, the writers, and that's one of those telling pieces of lore, right? It's very clear from a storyline like that they were establishing that Klingons and humans were genetically different, and you could tell that. So this idea of a human fusion Klingon did not exist in their minds when they were writing the original series. So the invention of that only comes out because they decided to upgrade the makeup on the Klingons. People don't realize this. A big part of why the Klingons look different in the movie and later generation, as opposed to the original series, was A, budget. I mean, Spock's ears were bad enough. Can you imagine a full forehead thing? They couldn't afford to do that. But there was a second element that people don't think about a lot. Look back at the original series and look at what they actually did. Fu Manchu mustache and equivalent of blackface. Even by the early 70s, people were going, this is probably not a good look. That's why they decided they needed to change the look of the Klingons to be less offensive. And in a rare instance, I'm going to say rightly so. So you were always supposed to believe Klingons always looked like that. That was the thought back then. Of course, I remember the Mind Sifter. Yeah, that was canon as well, right? That came up in the original series. I don't remember which episode. Thank you. That's what I was trying to remember. Volk of the House of None, because he had been disowned, was a Klingon. Was an albino Klingon. Volk eventually conceived a child with future Chancellor of the Klingon High Council, L'Rell, who was also an albino. Fan lore insists that if either Volk's child, well, no, it's not possible, because Volk's child grew up to be a cleric of the monastery of Borath. But there have been fan attempts to tie that character to the albino from Deep Space Nine, that Kor, Koloth, and Kang have a blood feud with. The TNG timeline just gives me a migraine headache, so that is part of the reason why I choose to avoid the Next Generation stories. Well, you know, if you want to continue, and this is something I tell everybody, if you want to continue the story, you have to embrace it. If not, then you have 3 seasons of a show and a couple of movies, and that's your entire lore, you know. And I think TNG did a great job. They were a little bit off in the beginning, but once Okuda and Sternbach, by like second and third season, started to really get in and codify things. They had to retcon things that they did in the first season that didn't work, but they started lining up timelines and chronology, tech things. It actually gets really good if you want to get into it, but you don't even have to in order to enjoy the basic stories. One of my favorite lines in Deep Space Nine, mainly from the delivery, "I have found the albino." Yes. Discovery was a pile of well, yes. I'm just saying that, you know, there was still, you know, like somebody that swallows a bunch of gemstones. There might be a few gems in that pile of crap, you know. The only reason I bought a cell phone was because I was out with my oldest son when he was a baby and was trying to get hold of my wife, and I could not find a working payphone. Yeah, you eventually get to the point where you just got to do what you got to do. There is a hot dog joint in New York City called Criff's Dogs with a wooden phone booth that has a very special feature inside. Movie money, that's it. His internal organs were all in the wrong place. Where the Klingon's heart and liver is placed in the body is different from a human being's. Yep, that's absolutely right. Oddly enough, with the more Mongolian tone, it was an odd mix of blackface and yellowface. Yeah. I hadn't really thought about it that way, but that's pretty on point. We all remember from Deep Space Nine what happened when you let albino Klingons run wild. Exactly. Deep Space Nine, Blood Feud is a great episode. I love at the end where Kor is singing over those fallen in battle. Yeah. That's the kind of lore I'm talking about that really enriched the show. I think TOS was the better series, but TNG had some better episodes. If that makes sense. It does. It absolutely does. Real quick, I want to say hi to Jay and Leanne and ask, how's everybody doing over there? I hope you guys are well. The thing that I think is challenging, more than lore issues, more than any of that kind of stuff, transitioning from TOS to TNG, You could literally take any single episode of the original series and watch it on its own, and you didn't have to have ever watched another episode of the original series. TNG started to become, it was still like that, but it was starting to become more episodic with a lot more 2-part episodes, storylines in one season that were referenced in later episodes. That didn't happen. I'm not going to say it didn't happen at all in the original series, but I can't think of an example. And then by Deep Space Nine, it was whole season arcs. So it really did matter. Even up to Voyager, they were still trying to do the episode of the week standalone, but they could not get away from earlier stuff affecting the current storyline. TNG was actually taken from Star Trek Phase 2, or at least episodes of the first and second season absolutely were. That's true, which wound up being the motion picture. Many early scripts for the canceled series wound up being used for TNG. Yes, and that's why that's what shaped a lot of the episodes. That's why you had Will Decker, William Riker. You had Lieutenant Ilea. You had Counselor Deanna Troi. You had Commander Zahn. You had Commander Data, right? These were all characters that were meant to fill in, story elements. They're very, very similar. So Zahn was meant to be a Vulcan, full Vulcan, who was attempting to understand the mores of humanity because he saw that Spock's insight into humans, being half human himself, gave him an advantage working with the Enterprise crew. So he was the fish out of water, like Data, trying to understand human ways, but purely logical without emotion. You have Deanna Troi being very similar in character to Ilea, who had a previous relationship with the first officer, William something. And so then you can have a story like The Child, which was originally written for Phase 2, and that would have, of course, been Commander Ilea, or Lieutenant Ilea having the child, as opposed to Deanna Troi, and so forth. So during the Next Generation era, I chose to only focus on Deep Space Nine instead. That was harder for us in the Chicagoland area because so many Deep Space Nine episodes were interrupted or skipped because of baseball. WGN was terrible for that. To this day, there are large segments of Deep Space Nine episodes I have not yet seen because of growing up in the Chicago area. I did like Blood Feud, but I wish that they had left Kang, Koloth, and Kor uncured, especially after Worf's line about not talking about it with outsiders. I understand that, but I think that was their way of, their first attempt at definitively saying they always looked like this. Okay, we joked about it by saying we don't discuss it with outsiders, but just assume they always looked like this. But the fans couldn't leave well enough alone, and eventually the writers couldn't leave well enough alone. So you now retroactively have to say that the big three got cured genetically because we have to assume something happened based on establishing storyline from Enterprise. Leanne got to go home yesterday. Good. I finally got some sleep last night. I am so glad she is home. I'm hoping she's on the mend. I'm guessing there's probably still some physical therapy from that fall. I hope she's doing okay. The funniest thing about Deep Space Nine was the fact Curazon Dax died by Jamaron. I guess. We don't discuss it with outsiders is a line I often use at conventions when people ask about it. Yeah, exactly. It was intended to be just a hand waving it away. I remember all the various fan theories about Imperials and fusions from different houses or different continents. So this was something that Star Trek Discovery attempted to bring back, and they were only doing it because they were getting so much pushback about the new look of the Klingons. They started to suggest, and there's good reason for it, well, maybe not all Klingons throughout the Empire look the same. And in modern hard science, just as we talk about humans starting lunar colonies and Mars colonies, saying, there might have to be, if not genetic manipulation, in order to make our bodies more able to deal with different gravities and so forth. If it doesn't happen artificially, it's going to happen naturally. There's going to be an evolutionary process that is within generations going to start reshaping humanity in lower gravities and higher gravities in thinner atmospheres, heavier atmospheres, different atmospheres. And that's going to change the way people look. And if that happens to humans, it's going to happen to Klingons too. But when you're doing that backpedaling because of a stupid decision you made without any thought, that's always going to be a problem. That's trying to squeeze that square peg into that round hole. That was my second favorite line. We don't discuss it with outsiders. Yeah, exactly. She had to agree to get a private nurse before she got released early. Well, I understand that could be challenging, but it could be for the best. I hope that works out. The less said about Star Trek Discovery orcs, who are not Klingons, the better. I understand. You did notice though that by, was it second or third season, they grew their hair out. They backed off on the makeup. So were they really Klingorks, or were they just bald Klingons? No, I did not do the promos, and I don't think I'm going to, because I was just having so much fun talking with you guys. But that being said, I know that a lot of you guys have got to get back to work. I definitely do. I've got things that I have to get done before tonight. And the 9 o'clock Central stream of The Adventures of Sherlock Holmes, which I hope you can join me for. So, guys, I want to thank you guys so much for hanging out with me. Me and my monkey, thank you for the gifted membership. I can't express my gratitude. Really, really need the support in order to keep this channel going, and you guys have absolutely been rising to the occasion, and I appreciate it. Guys, you take care of yourselves. Hope to see you tonight, but if not, I'll see you on another one coming up. Take care of yourselves. Take care of your families. I know you guys are doing that. Stay as healthy as possible. Feel better if you're not completely healthy. Drink responsibly. Stay hydrated. And I'll see you on the next one. Take care, guys.
Goodbye. Hope to see you again real soon.
So here's to the daylight, the drinks and the fun, our liquid lunch, till the next one comes. With a wink and a smile, we'll be back real soon, chasing that jazz under the high